The training hall buzzed with energy as cadets from across the galaxy prepared for combat drills, stood in line, adjusting the straps on his training armor. It felt heavy on his shoulders, but he said nothing. Around him, aliens of every shape and size stretched and prepared. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had features he could not even name. The ship they lived on, the Celestial Vanguard, was home to the best young warriors in the galaxy. At least, that was what everyone said. Was not so sure he belonged here. Humans were new to the Galactic Coalition. Very new. Most species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had only joined 3 years ago. "Next pair step forward," the instructor called. His voice echoed through the hall. Walk to the center mat. His opponent was already waiting. She was tall, almost 3 meters high, with 4 arms and a body covered in natural armor that looked like dark purple metal. Her name was, and she was, everyone knew her. She was the top student in combat, strategy, and tactics. Her family had been warriors for generations. Looked down at with golden eyes that showed no emotion. "A human," she said. Her voice was cold. "This will be quick." The other cadets gathered around to watch, could hear them whispering. He caught a few words: weak, soft, fragile. He had heard these words before, many times. The instructor raised his hand. "Begin." Moved faster than expected. Her 4 arms became a blur. One arm grabbed his shoulder, another swept his leg, and before he could react, he was on his back. The air left his lungs with a harsh sound. The mat was hard beneath him. 7 seconds, announced, stepping back. New record for shortest match. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Slowly got to his feet, breathing hard. His shoulder hurt where she had grabbed him. He would have a bruise there tomorrow. Again, the instructor said. This time lasted 12 seconds. The third time, 9 seconds. Each time ended the same way, with him on the ground and standing over him, barely breathing hard. "Enough," the instructor finally said. "Next pair." Limped to the side of the mat. Another human cadet handed him a water container. She was small, with dark hair tied back in a tight knot. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Fine," said, taking a drink. The water was cold and helped. "You should stop volunteering to fight her. She is making an example of you." Shrugged. "Someone has to show the others that humans can take a hit." "Taking a hit is not the same as winning," pointed out. They watched as defeated her next 3 opponents with similar ease. She was good, had to admit that. Her movements were clean and efficient. She never wasted energy. Every strike had purpose. After training ended, the cadets moved to the mess hall for evening meal. Sat with, and the only other human on the ship, a quiet engineer named. The 3 of them always sat together. It was easier that way. Was eating some kind of protein paste that the ship's food system claimed was nutritious, when he heard his voice behind him. "I have a question for the humans," she announced loudly. The mess hall grew quiet. Everyone turned to look. Set down his spoon and turned in his seat. Stood with a group of cadets, her 4 arms crossed in a gesture of challenge. "How did your species survive long enough to develop space travel?" asked. Her tone was not curious, it was mocking. "You have no natural armor, no claws, no venom, no enhanced strength, no telepathic abilities, nothing." She paused. "What exactly can humans do?" The other aliens in the mess hall waited for his answer. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked uncomfortable with his rudeness. Stood slowly. He was not as tall as, but he met her eyes without looking away. For a long moment he said nothing. Then a small smile appeared on his face. "We survived," he said simply. His eyes narrowed. "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer you need," replied, still smiling. The smile seemed to anger more than any words could have. Her armor plates shifted, a sign of irritation in. "You think you are clever, human, but when we go to 7 next month, your cleverness will not help you. Only strength matters on a death world." "We will see," said calmly. He sat back down and returned to his meal. After a moment, the noise in the mess hall resumed, stood there a moment longer, then turned and walked away with her group. "You really should not provoke her," whispered urgently. "Have killed beings for smaller insults." "I did not insult her," said, taking another bite. "I just smiled." "That smile will get you in trouble," added, speaking for the first time. Just shrugged. He knew they were right, but something about certainty bothered him. She was so sure that strength was everything, so confident that humans were weak. She had never been to Earth. She had never seen what humans could do when they decided to survive. She had never learned the difference between appearing weak and actually being weak. Maybe Seven would teach her. That night lay in his small quarters, staring at the ceiling. The ship's announcement system chimed, and the captain's voice filled every room. "Attention all cadets. The survival expedition to Seven will begin in 30 days. Team assignments will be posted tomorrow morning. Prepare yourselves. Seven shows no mercy to the weak or unprepared. Good luck." Closed his eyes. 30 days. He would need to train, to prepare, to make sure he had the skills necessary to survive. But he was not worried. Humans had survived worse than death worlds. They had survived Earth. The dropship shook as it entered Seven's atmosphere, gripped his safety harness and watched through the window as purple clouds rushed past. Lightning flashed in the distance, followed by thunder that he could feel in his chest. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot announced. Looked at his team. Sat across from him, calm and still as a statue. Her 4 arms were secured in the harness, and her golden eyes stared straight ahead. Next to her was a nervous amphibious being whose skin kept changing colors with his emotions. Right now, he was a sickly yellow-green. On his left sat Rax, an avian with bright red feathers and sharp eyes that never stopped moving. When the team assignments had been posted a month ago, had stared at the list for a long time. Then she had cursed in her native language. His name was right next to hers. 10 seconds. The dropship's cargo door began to open. Hot, thick air rushed in. It smelled like sulfur and rotting plants. Could already feel the heavy gravity pulling at him. Go, go, go. One by one, they jumped. The anti-gravity packs on their backs slowed their fall, and they landed in a clearing surrounded by massive trees. The trees were nothing like Earth trees. These had black bark and leaves that moved even though there was no wind. The dropship disappeared into the clouds above. They were alone now. Immediately took charge. "We need shelter before nightfall, find water. Rax, scout the area from above. Human, gather firewood." "My name is," he said calmly. "I do not care, gather firewood." Did not argue. He moved into the forest, his body already feeling the effects of the heavy gravity. Everything weighed more here. His backpack, his water container, even his own arms and legs. It was like wearing weights on every part of his body. He gathered dead wood carefully, checking each piece for insects or other dangers. The forest was full of strange sounds, clicking, buzzing, roaring, things he could not identify. He worked quickly but thoroughly, always watching his surroundings. When he returned to the clearing, Rax had already landed. Large predators to the north. I saw 3, maybe 4, big as the dropship. We should avoid that direction. Had found a stream, but he looked worried. The water moves fast, and I saw something large swimming in it. Pointed to a cluster of rocks near the stream. "We build shelter there, high ground near water, defensible position." She looked at. "Start a fire." Set down his wood and began arranging it. He pulled out his fire starter, a simple tool that created sparks. Within minutes, small flames were growing. "You are slow," observed. "I could have done that faster." "But you did not," replied, feeding the fire carefully. Over the next 7 days, a pattern formed. Strength made her invaluable. She could carry twice as much as anyone else. She could hunt the large animals they needed for food. She could build structures with her 4 arms that would take the others hours to complete. But she grew more and more frustrated with. He moved too slowly through the forest. While she could run for an hour at full speed, walked at a steady pace. It annoyed her. He needed to rest more often. Every few hours, would stop to drink water and eat a small amount of food. Could go all day without eating. He insisted on wasteful practices. He boiled all his water before drinking it. He cooked all his meat thoroughly. He washed his hands frequently. "Your species is pathetic," said on the 7th night. They were sitting around the fire, eating roasted meat from the day's hunt. "You cannot even drink water without processing it first. How did humans ever survive on their own world?" "Earth has parasites," explained patiently. "Bacteria, viruses, things in the water that can make you sick. We learned to be careful." "Weak," muttered. Rax laughed nervously. "Come on, he is doing his best." "His best is not good enough for a death world." Who had been quiet most of the trip, spoke up softly. "He has not complained once." Turned to look at the amphibian. "What?" "He has not complained. Not about the gravity, the heat, the work, nothing." Skin had turned a thoughtful blue color. "I have complained 17 times. Rax has complained more than that. You have complained about constantly, but has said nothing." Frowned but said nothing. That night volunteered for the first watch. He sat by the fire, feeding it occasionally, watching the darkness beyond their camp. The forest was never quiet. Something was always moving, always hunting, always being hunted. Around midnight woke up. She saw still sitting there, alert and watchful. "You should sleep," she said. "I can take watch." "I am fine," said. "Sleep, you need your strength." "You need sleep too." "I will sleep later." Watched him for a moment, then lay back down, but she did not sleep immediately. She found herself thinking about what it said. The human had not complained, not once. The next morning brought their first real crisis. Drank from the stream without boiling the water first, despite warnings. By afternoon he was sick, very sick. His skin turned gray and he could not keep any food down. "We need to get him back to the extraction point," Rax said, panicking. "He is dying." "We are 2 weeks from extraction," said. "He will not make it." Was examining carefully. He looked at the sick being's eyes, felt his forehead, checked his pulse. "It is a parasite," said finally. "I have seen something similar." "You are not a doctor," snapped. "No, but I know parasites." Stood and moved to his backpack. He pulled out a small medical kit and a data pad. He spent several minutes comparing images on the pad to local plants. Then he walked into the forest. "Where are you going?" demanded. "To get medicine," called back. He returned an hour later with several plants. He crushed them, mixed them with boiled water, and made drink it. The amphibian protested weakly but was gentle and patient. "This will make you feel worse before you feel better," warned. "But it should kill the parasite." Watched skeptically, but by the next morning's color had improved. By afternoon he was sitting up and drinking water. By evening he was eating again. "Thank you," said quietly too. Just nodded. "Be more careful with water." Said nothing, but she looked at differently now. Less like an annoyance, more like a puzzle she could not quite solve. On day 14, their camp was surrounded by predators in the middle of the night. The growling started low and deep, coming from all directions at once. Opened his eyes instantly, already reaching for the makeshift spear beside him. The fire had burned down to embers, casting barely enough light to see. "Wake up," he said quietly but firmly. "We have company." Was on her feet in seconds, all 4 arms ready. Rax's feathers puffed up in alarm. Backed toward the fire, his skin flashing between colors rapidly. Eyes reflected in the darkness. Yellow eyes, dozens of them. The creatures circled their camp slowly just beyond the firelight. They were patient, waiting. "I count at least 15, said, her voice tense. "Maybe 20. Too many to fight, Rax whispered. Threw wood on the fire. Flames jumped up, pushing back the darkness. The creatures backed away slightly but did not leave. He could see them better now. They were large, covered in gray fur, with teeth designed for tearing meat. We fight, decided, gripping her weapon. No, said. What? Turned to him, anger in her eyes. We do not fight, we drive them away. Was already moving, gathering more wood. Make noise, bang the pots together. Racks fly up and dive at them, but do not get close. Help me build up the fire, make it big. This is cowardice, protested. This is survival, corrected. We have 30 days of supplies. If we fight, someone will get hurt. Injured beings need more food, more water, more rest. We cannot afford that. For a moment, looked like she would argue. Then she began throwing wood on the fire, started banging their metal pots together, creating a terrible noise. Rax took to the air, screeching loudly. Grabbed burning branches from the fire and threw them toward the creatures. They yelped and backed away. He kept throwing, creating a wall of small fires around their camp. The heat and smoke and noise confused the predators. It took an hour, but eventually the creatures left. Their yellow eyes disappeared into the forest. The team stood there, breathing hard, watching the darkness. It worked, said, amazed. Of course it worked, said, pouring water on the small fires before they spread. Fire and noise are older than any of us. Predators do not like what they cannot understand. Said nothing. She just stared at with an expression he could not read. Then she turned and went to check the camp perimeter. Days 15 and 16 passed without major incident. But on day 17, everything went wrong. They were crossing a ravine, moving single file across a narrow rock bridge. Was in front, testing each step carefully. Followed then with racks flying overhead. The attack came from below. Massive creatures with tentacles and armored heads erupted from the ravine walls. One tentacle wrapped around Rax's leg and pulled him from the sky. He hit the rock bridge hard and heard the sickening crack of bone. Rax screamed. Another creature lunged at, striking him with a heavy limb. The amphibian flew backward, hit his head on a rock and went still. Roared and charged forward, her 4 arms swinging. She fought like a storm, but there were too many creatures. One of them struck her directly in the chest. Her natural armor cracked with a sound like breaking pottery. She gasped in pain. Did not think, he grabbed and pulled her back. Move into the cave. There was a small opening in the ravine wall. Dragged toward it while fighting off tentacles with his spear. Somehow, he made it to the opening. He pulled inside, then rushed back out. Rax was still on the bridge, clutching his broken wing, surrounded by creatures. Ran forward, grabbed the avian and threw him over his shoulder. A tentacle wrapped around his ankle. He cut it with his knife. Another grabbed his arm. He twisted free, skin tearing. He made it to the cave entrance just as more creatures surged forward. He fell inside, Rax on top of him. The creatures could not fit through the narrow opening. They tried, their tentacles reaching into the darkness, but kicked them back. Finally, they gave up and retreated. Lay on the cave floor, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding where the tentacle had grabbed him. His ankle hurt, but he was alive. Gasped, "Where is?" Looked at her, her armor was cracked badly across her chest. Purple blood seeped from the cracks. "I will get him, stay here." "You cannot go back out there," said weakly. "I can," stood up, his legs shaking, "and I will." He waited until the creatures had truly left, then crept back onto the bridge. Was lying where he had fallen, not moving, checked for a pulse. Still alive, unconscious but alive. Picked up the amphibian and carried him back to the cave. It took all his strength. The heavy gravity made feel like he weighed as much as a boulder. Once inside, allowed himself 1 minute of rest, just 1 minute, then he got to work. He built a fire near the cave entrance for light and warmth. He checked each team member's injuries. Rax's wing was broken in 2 places, had a head injury and was unconscious. His armor was cracked and the soft tissue underneath was damaged. Worked through the night. He set Rax's wing, using straight sticks and cloth strips to make a splint. Rax cried out in pain, but hands were steady and gentle. He cleaned and treated its wound. The crack in her armor could not be repaired, but he could prevent infection. He used supplies from his medical kit and plants he had gathered over the past weeks. He checked every hour, making sure the amphibian was still breathing, still stable. Drifted in and out of consciousness. Through the pain and delirium she watched work. His eyes were red with exhaustion. His hands never stopped. He did not sleep. He did not rest. He just kept working, kept checking, kept caring for them. At one point, deep in the night, woke to find sitting by the cave entrance, weapons ready, staring into the darkness. "How long have you been awake?" she asked. Her voice was weak. "Does it matter?" replied quietly. "You need to sleep. I will sleep when you are all safe. That might be days. Then I will sleep in days." Tried to sit up, but pain stopped her. "You cannot function without sleep. No being can." Glanced at her, and in the firelight she saw something in his eyes. Determination, resolve. "I can go 3 days without sleep if I have to. It is not comfortable. My thinking gets slower. My reactions are worse, but I can do it." "That is impossible." "It is human." Lay back down, her mind struggling to understand. 3 days without sleep. How? Why would evolution create a being that could do that? On the second day, hunted for food despite his exhaustion. He brought back meat and edible plants. He cooked everything carefully, making sure it was safe for each species to eat. He fed Rax by hand because the avian could not move. He dripped water into his mouth to keep him hydrated. On the third day, finally woke up. The amphibian was confused and in pain but alive. Checked his eyes, his responses, his memory. "You will be okay," he assured. "You just need rest." Only then, after 72 hours of continuous watch, did allow himself to sleep. He lay down near the fire and was unconscious within seconds. Watched him sleep, this weak human, this fragile being with no armor, no claws, no natural weapons. He had saved all of them. He had fought when needed. He had worked without rest. He had kept them alive through sheer determination. For the first time, felt something she had never felt toward a human before. It was not pity. It was not contempt. It was respect. Slept for 12 hours straight. When he woke, was keeping watch by the cave entrance. She turned when she heard him move. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Her voice was different now, less cold, almost concerned. "Better," said, sitting up slowly. His body ached everywhere, but that was normal. "How is everyone?" "Rax's wing is healing, is weak but improving. I can move, but slowly." She paused. "We need to reach the extraction point, 60 kilometers. With my injury and Rax's wing, we cannot move at normal speed." Stood and stretched carefully. "Then we move at whatever speed we can manage. We have 13 days left." "That is not much time." "It is enough." Began organizing their supplies. "We leave in 1 hour. I will carry the heavy gear. You help walk. Rax, can you walk at all?" The avian nodded. "I cannot fly, but I can walk," slowly. They left the cave and began their journey. Insisted on taking the lead. He chose the path carefully, avoiding difficult terrain that would slow them down. Noticed things she had not paid attention to before. After 2 hours of walking, needed to rest. Her chest hurt where her armor was cracked. "Stop," she called out. "I need a break." Stopped and waited patiently. He was not even breathing hard, stared at him. "You are not tired." "I am tired," admitted, "but I can keep going." "For how long?" Considered the question. "On Earth, my ancestors used to hunt animals by chasing them, not by being faster, by being steady. An animal would run away, fast and scared. We would jog after it. The animal would rest and we would keep coming. Eventually, the animal would be too exhausted to run anymore. Then we would catch it." That is terrifying, said quietly. Smiled, it kept us alive. They walked for 8 hours that day, had to stop 4 times to rest. Each time waited without complaint. His pace never changed, steady, constant, relentless. On the second day of travel, the temperature changed. Morning was freezing cold, cold enough that its joints stiffened. Then by midday it became blazing hot, and the others suffered. Rax's feathers drooped in the heat. Skin dried out and cracked, felt like her insides were boiling, but seemed less affected. When it was cold, he shivered and kept moving. When it was hot, water poured from his skin in a strange way. "What is that?" asked, pointing at the water dripping from his face. "Sweat," explained. "My body releases water through my skin. When it evaporates, it cools me down." "You are leaking," Rax observed. "Yes, it is very efficient," wiped his forehead. "Humans can survive in deserts, jungles, ice fields, mountains. Our bodies adapt." Remembered her words from the first day. What can humans do? Now she was beginning to understand. On the third day, stepped on something sharp. It was a thorn-like spine from a plant, but it was coated with toxin. His foot swelled immediately. The pain, knew, must have been intense. She had seen warriors cry from similar injuries. Sat down, pulled out the spine, cleaned the wound, and wrapped it in cloth from his medical kit. His face showed pain for just a moment. Then it went calm again. "We should rest here," said. "You are injured." "It is just pain," said, standing up. He tested his weight on the injured foot and winced slightly. "Pain is just information. It tells me something is wrong, but it does not have to stop me." He kept walking, with a limp, but he kept walking. Later that day, noticed something else. She had a deep cut on her arm from the ravine attack. It had been 5 days, and it still hurt, still oozed purple blood. But injuries from the same fight were already mostly healed. The torn skin on his arm was covered with new tissue. The wound on his ankle was just a scar. "How?" asked, pointing at his arm. Looked at the healing wound. "Humans heal quickly. Our immune system is aggressive, sometimes too aggressive, but it keeps us alive." "Your species is strange," said. "Our planet made us this way," replied. "Earth is beautiful, but it wants to kill everything on it. Diseases, parasites, predators, whether natural disasters. Humans had to become tough or die out." That evening, as they made camp, demonstrated another skill. He took out his data pad and studied the sky. Then he pointed. "Rain coming. Big storm. We need better shelter." "How do you know?" Rax asked. Pointed at clouds, had not even noticed. "See the shape, the color, the way the wind is moving. On Earth, reading weather could mean the difference between life and death. My ancestors learned to predict storms, droughts, cold snaps. They built shelter just in time. The rain came an hour later, violent and heavy. Inside their makeshift tent, dry and safe, watched. He was always thinking, always planning, always several steps ahead. On day 7 of their journey, they encountered their biggest challenge yet. A creature found them. Not a pack, just one. But it was enormous, and it moved like it had all the time in the world. Slow, patient, following them. "It is a persistence predator," said, studying it from a distance. "Like the ones I told you about, it hunts by exhaustion." "We should fight it," suggested. "No," said. His eyes had a strange light in them. "I will lead it away. You 3 keep moving toward extraction. I will catch up." "That is suicide," protested. "No," said again. "It is what I was born to do." Before could stop him, started jogging. Not running, jogging. The creature saw him and followed. Wanted to chase after him, but her injury slowed her. She could only watch as disappeared into the forest, the massive creature following behind him. Hours passed, and Rax kept moving, but slower now, worried. Skin was a deep blue of fear. Rax kept looking back. "He is dead," said quietly. "That creature was twice his size." But 8 hours later, as the sun was setting, appeared from the trees. He was exhausted. His clothes were soaked with sweat. His legs shook. but he was alive, and he was carrying meat from the creature. "What happened?" demanded. Sat down heavily and drank water for a long minute before answering. "I led it on a chase, jogged for about 6 hours. It kept following, getting slower and slower. Its body could not cool down like mine. Eventually, it collapsed from heat exhaustion." He smiled tiredly. "Then I finished it." Stared at him. "You ran it to death." "I jogged it to death," corrected. "There is a difference." "You are insane." "No, I am human. This is what we do. This is what we have always done." Looked at her with those calm eyes. "Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We do not have the best senses or natural weapons, but we have something else." "What?" asked. "We do not stop, ever. We keep going when everything else quits. We adapt to conditions that would kill others. We heal from wounds that would end other beings. We go without sleep, without food, through pain and exhaustion. We outlast everything." He paused. "That is humanity's secret. We are persistence made flesh." That night, as they ate the meat had brought, finally understood. She had mocked this human for being weak. But he was not weak. He was the most dangerous kind of strong. The kind that never gave up. The kind that could not be outlasted. They reached the extraction point on day 29, one day early. The entire team was exhausted, injured, but alive. All because of a human who refused to quit. The extraction shuttle landed at the designated coordinates exactly on schedule. The team sat together, waiting in silence. They looked like survivors of a war. His armor was still cracked, held together with makeshift repairs. Rax's wing hung in a splint. Skin was covered in scars, and looked thinner, his clothes torn and dirty. When the shuttle doors opened, medical teams rushed out. They helped the injured aboard, checking vital signs and documenting injuries. A medical officer looked at its cracked armor and whistled low. "You are lucky to be alive," the officer said. "This kind of damage usually means death." Glanced at who was helping into a seat. Luck had nothing to do with it. Back on the Celestial Vanguard, news of their survival spread quickly. His team had been given one of the most difficult routes on 7. The fact that they all survived was remarkable. The fact that they arrived early was unprecedented. Other teams straggled in over the next 2 days. Some had lost members. Others had needed emergency extraction. A few teams had failed completely, requiring rescue before the 30 days ended. Spent most of his time in the medical bay, making sure his teammates received proper care. Watched him from her recovery bed. He did not talk about what had happened. He did not boast or seek recognition. He just quietly helped and then disappeared. On the 3rd day after their return, the Academy held a debriefing session for all teams. Cadets filled the auditorium, sharing stories of their experiences. Was asked to speak about her team's survival. She stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces. She saw sitting in the back, trying to be invisible as usual. She saw other humans too, and sat together looking nervous. Took a breath and began to speak. "When I saw my team assignment, I was angry," she said honestly. "I believed I had been given inferior teammates, especially the human." The room grew very quiet. Some cadets looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement. "I was wrong," continued, "completely wrong." She told them everything. The ravine attack, how it saved them all. How he had gone 72 hours without sleep, keeping watch, treating injuries, keeping them alive. She told them about his endurance, his ability to function in extreme temperatures, his rapid healing. She told them about the persistence predator and how it jogged it to death over 8 hours. The auditorium was silent when she finished. "I mocked for being weak," said. "I called him fragile. I said his species had nothing to offer. But the truth is this: humanity is not weak. Humanity is terrifying." She paused, making sure everyone was listening. Every species evolved to survive their home world with some natural advantage. They have strength and armor, they have telepathy, they have venom. Humans evolved on a planet that gave them every advantage combined. They do not stop. They do not quit. They adapt to anything. They heal from wounds that kill others. They function without sleep. They outlast predators designed to outlast prey. Look directly at. On my home world, we have an old saying, beware the creature that has nothing but refuses to die. That is humanity. After the debriefing found in the mess hall, he was eating quietly, as usual, with End. That was an interesting speech, said as she approached. It was the truth, replied. She stood awkwardly for a moment. May I sit? Gestured to the empty seat across from him. Sat down, her armor plates clicking softly. I want to apologize, she said, for how I treated you, for what I said. Apology accepted, said simply. Just like that. You did not know, now you do. What more is there to say? Found herself smiling, this human, so calm, so practical. I would like us to be friends if you are willing. Smiled back, I would like that. From that day forward and were often seen together. The sight surprised many cadets. The top warrior and a human walking the halls as equals, training together, studying together. It sent a message throughout the academy. Months later, graduated and received her commission as a junior officer in the coalition military. Graduated in the same ceremony, though with less fanfare. Humans were still new to the galactic stage, and many species still doubted their worth. First assignment was to the Coalition Strategic Command. Her second day on the job, she sat in a briefing with high-ranking military officers from across the galaxy. The topic was military recruitment and species specialization. A general from a warrior species stood and addressed the room. We need more combat troops, species with natural advantages, strength, speed, armor. He looked at a data pad. I see Earth has requested inclusion in combat roles. I recommend denial. Humans are too fragile for work. Stood immediately. Permission to speak, General. The general looked annoyed but nodded. Speak. I have fought beside a human, sir, on 7. If you are looking for soldiers who can sprint faster than the enemy, look elsewhere. But if you want soldiers who will never stop coming, who will survive impossible conditions, who will outlast any foe and who can turn death worlds into home. She paused. You want humans. The general frowned. That is quite a claim, junior officer. On what basis do you make it? Before could respond, the door opened. Walked in, now wearing the uniform of a coalition military consultant. He had been called to this exact meeting. The general looked at him. You are the human consultant. Yes, sir, said calmly, representing Earth's military interests. Tell me, consultant, what makes humanity qualified for war? Stood at attention, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. Sir, humans are the species that hunted mammoths to extinction with pointed sticks. We did not do it by being stronger than mammoths. They weighed 6 tons. We did it by being smarter and by never giving up. We followed them for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. Then we finished them. He paused, making sure everyone was listening. That is what we bring to the coalition. We do not need to be the strongest or the fastest. We just need to be the last one standing. His voice was quiet but absolute, and we always are. The room was silent for a long moment. Then another officer spoke up. What about endurance? Can humans really function without rest? Humans can march for days carrying heavy loads, replied. We can go without sleep for extended periods. We can survive in temperatures ranging from -40 to +50 degrees. We can eat a wider variety of foods than most species. We heal quickly, and we have something else. He paused. We have stubbornness, determination, call it what you want. When everyone else quits, humans keep going. A third officer asked, and if you face an enemy stronger than you? Smiled slightly. We have faced stronger enemies before, sir. We always win eventually, because strength is not everything. Persistence is. The meeting continued for another hour, but the decision was already made. Humanity would be granted military contracts, not for assault troops but for something more valuable: long-range reconnaissance, survival specialists, endurance operations, and special forces. As the meeting ended, caught up within the hallway. "You did well in there," she said. "So did you. Thank you for speaking up." They walked together toward the exit. Outside the windows, stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Humanity's future among them was just beginning. "Do you think they understand now?" asked, "what humans really are?" Looked out at the stars. "Some do, others will learn. The galaxy mocked humanity for being weak. They will learn to respect us instead, not for our strength," he paused, that slight smile returning, "but for our refusal to break." Nodded. She had learned that lesson the hard way on Seven. Humanity was not weak. They were persistent. They were adaptable. They were survivors. And now the galaxy would learn what one warrior had already discovered. When you think a human is defeated, when you think they have nothing left, when you believe they will finally give up, that is when they become most dangerous. Because humans do not know how to quit. They only know how to survive.